Nintendo has many different series, each with their own unique problems and worries to overcome. Some series are trying to gain an audience, some are trying to innovate and change the gaming landscape, and then some are just trying to maintain their grip on the cultural zeitgeist. However, what if I told you there was a series that isn't just trying to solve one of these issues, but is juggling all three at the same time? What if I told you that that series was Animal Crossing? Animal Crossing from the outside seems like a thriving brand. New Horizons put up Mario numbers on the Switch and completely took a cultural stranglehold on the early months of the lockdown. It's a series that's grown steadily for years, but in a weird 2 steps forward, 1 step back pattern. It's a series whose success is as hollow as the game that brought it fortune. It's a series that, this is too damn dramatic. Let's roll the intro. So, what does a post-New Horizons world look like? Well, I went to the source and interviewed an Animal Crossing connoisseur to get their take on the games. When looking for an interviewee, I made sure to find someone who is not just a New Horizons kid, but someone who's played a wide variety of Animal Crossing games. Someone who has years of experience buying turnips and someone who's well-versed in the Animal Crossing world. However, I didn't want someone who just hates to hate, and picked someone who has over 800 hours in New Horizons and definitely likes the game. That person would be my older sister. I asked her a few questions to gauge where the average long-term Animal Crossing fan feels the series is headed and her thoughts on New Horizons as a game. Do you think New Horizons was a step in the right direction for the series? Why or why not? Yes and no. This is a tough one for me. While I love the features New Horizons brought to the table, it begins to feel empty over time. A little too simplified for my taste. I love the Stardew effect in games where it's like a gift that keeps on giving. If there were more updates to come, I'd maybe feel differently, but maybe it's time for a new direction instead of a new horizon. If you could make any changes to New Horizons, what would they be? More updates. Definitely need new events, new items, maybe even some new fruits and veggies. Also, maybe a new store or an area near your island to expand the playing field. What features from old Animal Crossing games would you like to see return? I loved having the Main Street area in New Leaf, where I could unlock new features over time and even see old villagers who moved off my island. I felt like I had to work more for what I wanted in New Leaf. It's just too easy to unlock everything in New Horizons. So the main thing I've picked up from this is that New Horizons, while an innovative game for the direction of the series, feels shallow. It's a game that unfortunately gets stale too quickly. I was talking to my sister and she said she's restarted her island over 4 times. And the main thing that I believe leads to this is the lack of late game content. The gameplay loop of building new shops and houses at the beginning is so rewarding and fun, but by the time you 5-star your island and get KK Slider to do a concert, there's not much left to do. In old Animal Crossing games, you were just another villager making your way in the world, and also trying to help out your little town. Then in New Leaf, you became the mayor and were able to fund new projects to help spice up your town to your liking. Then in New Horizons, you basically became God. It's like they took a look at Happy Home Designer and were like, what if this was the entire game? And then made New Horizons, which, don't get me wrong, I like customizing my house. Check out my sick man cave. But at the end of the day, that's not what I play Animal Crossing for. That would be like making the igloo customization portion of Club Penguin the main objective of the entire game, which for some people it is, some people it isn't, which is where I think a lot of the divide in the community lands. You're either a designer or you're a villager. And I think that's where the past entries succeeded and New Horizons faltered. The needle was never too far in one area, but now that it has, it's going to make both the players and the developers re-examine the series and see where it truly goes from here. So it seems like at this point, Animal Crossing is at a crossroads. There are 2 paths they can go down, and each one will alter the future of the series forever. One path, they look at the success of New Horizons and see it as their key to success. The creativity, the personalization, the sandbox that is your island. New Horizons is their blueprint for the future, and they capitalize on the sandbox provided by the island getaway. Or the other path, they noticed the success of New Horizons, but not for the way it changed the game, but for the way it brought players together in a time of need, and capitalize on the community aspect. Either way, I think they'll succeed. However, I think going into the next game, one of these elements will be the core focus of the developers and will dictate the direction the series goes. My first idea is probably the most realistic basic and simple of the bunch, and that's a New Horizons sequel. It's weird calling a game a sequel 6 games into the series, but from this perspective, New Horizons was their breakout success, and they're gonna try and do everything to capitalize on what made that game special. Firstly, I think it's fair to say that this game will get a 2-year drip of free DLC. I'm not a huge fan of this for mostly single-player games like Animal Crossing. However, I think pulling people back to the game through updates over time will lower the barrier to entry we all have when booting up the game after a couple months. However, I would expect things like the Roost, the Dream Suite, and Diving to come day 1. If this is to be a true sequel, these can't come months after launch, and must be things you can do on launch day. Secondly, I would not expect this to be on an island again, and this goes for all the ideas down the line. I think the Island Getaway was a gorgeous transition to HD. However, I think a reoccurring theme we're going to see in future Animal Crossing titles are new locations that differentiate each game from each other. I think New Horizons fits the happy home designerification of the series so well, because the island worked as a realistic confines to which the world was your oyster. In this game, we're breaking down those confines, as the post-game will allow you to buy more land to add even more villagers and decorations to your town. You're no longer confined by just your island. You're now able to take your small village and turn it into a full-on city. Or, if you're not feeling a city, a quiet little lake town. Or really whatever you want it to be. Buying new land will free up a new place to make your village truly what you want it to be, and hopefully discourage resetting too early, as there will always be something new to decorate. For instance, you can even help Timmy and Tommy decorate Nook's Cranny, and if they get more and more sales because of it, they'll give you free stuff. Little things like that encourage decoration as not just an intrinsic reward, but also extrinsic. Decorating makes the village grow, and with you at the helm, its future is in good hands. Let's call it Animal Crossing Destiny Awaits. Let's give it a box art and turn our attention to option 2. Like I said earlier, I think an understated reason as to Animal Crossing's success is its community, but not in the way you'd expect. I'm talking about the in-game community. Animal Crossing, first and foremost, is a community simulation game where you meet your neighbors and build a life with them in your town. I asked my sister what her favorite part of the Animal Crossing series was, and she said, "Feeling like I can productively escape reality. My villagers are my little buddies who I can always depend on liking me, even if I haven't talked to them for over 2 years." The game is meant to be an escape from reality, and while yes, I do believe the multiplayer aspect was a big reason for New Horizons' success, I think the social simulation that is Animal Crossing is the biggest driver for what makes Animal Crossing different from every other game in its genre. So let's do this. Let's make an Animal Crossing game where every villager interaction means something. Let's make the community feel like a community, where everyone contributes in some way to make the town a better place. Firstly, let's pick a setting. I think a rural mountain town set near a big lake would be a beautiful location for the next game. We've always had this big body of water at the bottom of the map, but what if this time that body of water wasn't just a mysterious endless ocean, but here it's a lake that holds the entire city center, with a lot of shops and mini games to play. Speaking of shops, I'm putting my villagers to work. Don't worry, I didn't forget about the shop villagers, and they're not going anywhere. But what if our own villagers could open up their own little shops in the city center as well? For example, what if Teddy wanted to open a gym where you could do little workout minigames with him? Or Raymond opened a library where you could check out books and actually read them? Or what if Eric wanted to open up a ski lift where you and your friends can play a skiing minigame? All with different interests so they can open up unique shops in the city center. It also fixes the problem of them kind of being useless in New Horizons. Here, your villagers have their own lives and have free will outside of you. They'll once again feel real again without having to bring back the meanness of the old games. Next, since the game is set in a new mountainous ski town region, nature is going to be a key component of making this game work. Aside from the bugs, fish, and fossils, this game will also have a wildlife gallery, where you can take pictures of other wildlife and display them in the gallery sections of the museum. Sure, this might be a bit weird seeing as some animals are already in the game as villagers, but who cares? Take pictures of your buddies and put them in the gallery. Blathers won't care as long as you have the correct animals. Taking hikes and meeting new villagers to add to your wildlife gallery will create a sense of discovery along with creating memories with your new friends. Getting a picture with one of each animal in the game adds another layer of usefulness to the villagers that will make this game feel more and more like an escape. I'm gonna call this Animal Crossing New Heights. It stays with the new titling they've been using for the past few years, and Heights is an obvious reference to the mountainous environment. I think this game would be a great idea to bring back the community feeling of the old games, but it might just be a bit of an overcorrection. So I've got one more idea that will blow your socks off. This time, we're taking community to a whole new level. Out of my 3 ideas today, this is by far the least likely of the 3. As I said earlier, I think the game will either lean further into the design aspects or lean back on the tried and true social simulation. However, what if the next game was a combination of these 2 ideas? Introducing Animal Crossing Better Together. This game is an online multiplayer version of Animal Crossing. Don't worry, you can turn off the random players if you want, but in this game, you'll be given a plot of land on the world map where you and your villagers will live. This is your town and your town only. However, your friends aren't a plane ride away. They're right next door. See, in this game, you'll be given a bike, similar to like the Pokemon games, where you can ride them en route to your friends' villages and hang out with them on a whim, or even better, chill in their town. In this game, you can buy more land and be given building permits by your friends to build on their property. You're not just creating a town anymore, you're creating a whole world. Now, I know this is very unlikely for a Nintendo-backed game to do. Moderation would need to be rampant, and I don't think that they would make a game this expansive. However, this idea isn't out of nowhere. There is precedent for this. In New Horizons, if you opened up the game on a new profile, you'd be able to build your own house on the main profile's island and live there. The only problem was you basically had no power as the new resident. So in this game, each profile would get its own town and it would all connect through bicycle paths built by the players. You would still live in the same world, but players would have equal power over their separate areas. If they truly wanted to make Animal Crossing a multiplayer experience, this is the future. It's hard to pull off as online is tough, especially in games targeted to children like Animal Crossing. But I think this is truly the future of the series, if they decide to chase it. So those are my 3 ideas for the next game in the series. However, when is this game coming out? Well, I definitely think it's been cooking for a while now. New Horizons came out in 2020, and the team that works on Animal Crossing also works on Splatoon. Splatoon 3 came out in 2022, so that leads me to believe they've been working on this for at least 2 years now. There's also the Switch 2 of it all, which makes me think it's destined to either be a launch year title or at the latest the year after that. If I were to make a bet, Animal Crossing gets announced during next year's June or September Direct. By then, the Switch 2 will have already been shown off and maybe even released, and this is the perfect game to be released during the holiday cycle. Sure, it came out in March of 2020, but it was delayed from its original 2019 release date. And if we're being honest, they got really lucky with March being as good of a launch date as it was. So if I were to guess, I would lean towards a holiday 2026 release. I would probably say late October so the community can experience the 3 big holidays and not have to wait all year like we did with New Horizons. With all that said, I'm really excited for the future of Animal Crossing. I'm so glad it got the recognition it deserved with New Horizons, and I can only hope the next game in the series brings as much joy as the ones that came before. Thanks everybody for watching. We don't usually make Animal Crossing videos, but we sure like making them, so if you enjoyed, be sure to like and leave a comment on what you think the future of Animal Crossing is, and I'll be sure to respond to as many as possible. Alright, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!